going to ask you to step down and I'm gonna reappoint somebody else. That's just as simple as can be. That's what we do. And it
I mean, if
works.
something happens, some more crap happens in my family, and I'm not able to come, I would ask to step down. Because it's not fair for any of you that came here and you can't conduct
I don't think
business.
it will let you, but.
Yeah,
Well, Joe,
Because
how do you,
we don't,
okay,
I don't wanna have.
well, you're getting
use-
brownie points, Joe.
how does this committee suggest to the mayor that person A has been missing meeting? Now, if you're in the hospital, that's a different story.
I don't think it's, in this situation, it's up to the mayor at all.
Pardon?
The situation isn't up to
This,
the
yeah,
mayor.
this isn't, this one here, the appointment of the charter commission.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you go back to the council
Yeah.
person
I mean-
and say, pick someone else?
Yeah, I mean, if it came down to that issue and you felt it strongly enough that you need another member here, I mean, under the circumstances, I think he's now missed a couple meetings, I guess.
Yeah.
And, you know, he called last time and excused himself. I'm not sure why he didn't make it.
Well, he
tonight.
wasn't, I think he wasn't emotionally up to it. That's excusable. But today, did he call and just say what time was the meeting?
He just asked what time
Didn't say that he wasn't coming, so
we did not have any dialogue
That's an
other than
issue.
the meeting is at 6:30.
So,
that's just.
I
that's just-
understand what you're saying is generally speaking, and I think that the cure for that is that in the civil service, if we talk about civil service, or any other boards or commissions, that the mayor and the confirmation of council, they need to go back and say, look, if this person's not doing their job, can't conduct business for the city, let's ask that individual be removed, or when it comes up for their reappointment, then that should be reminded as well.
Okay, then, since our council president is here, you heard the discussion? I think you ought to look into, since a certain person is hardly ever here, because I think, I forget who appointed him, I think it was Nick Molnar. See if council can reappoint somebody for the next meeting legally.
That would be up to you guys as to what you want us to
This
do.
isn't
I mean,
appropriate for
yeah,
us
this
to
is
talk
not- that's-
about during this meeting.
That's-
I would save it for
Well,
after
I'm
the
sympathetic
meeting.
to the situation,
I'm not on
absolutely,
the charter,
but,
that would be
you
up
know,
to
you have to draw a line. If there's a
We're
committee,
here to
there's a
review the
committee.
charter, okay?
You
I'll
what?
stick with reviewing the charter, please. That's why I came here.
All right, we were discussing civil service and everybody seemed to be pretty happy with them. The next one is Parks and Recreation Commission. Does anybody believe there needs to be changes in the charter as it relates to Parks and Recreation Commission? Hearing nothing, is everybody ready to consider the municipal engineer, which is Article 14?
For the same comment I made about the service director, I think that the only qualification defined currently is that that individual be a registered professional engineer. There are various different PE licenses in the state of Ohio, and we could have a licensed CSE professional engineer, someone who is computer science engineering, functioning as our city engineer. And that skill set just doesn't quite match up. I mean, we need somebody skilled in roads, structures, infrastructure, buildings. I'm not suggesting I don't know anything about the guy who's currently doing this, but it seems to me that.
Contracted services.
Yeah.
Is there a real, I think the contract service is actually to
GPE, right, so they provide an engineer that's a PE that,
Right.
And his main thrust, the city engineer of Macedonia and probably many other communities is to provide assistance to the service director in determining how to write specifications to replace roads.
Usually it's a
and
civil
things like
engineer, you know,
Yeah.
someone that's a civil. I guess what I'm suggesting is.
I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, however, and I would hope that by legislation, by whatever advertisement, because council does approve the advertisement to go out and seek that individual. Do you not?
I don't think we approve the advertisement.
Do you not? You approve the hiring?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so If the individual doesn't meet that standard, then you don't hire an individual that doesn't meet a certain standard, if they don't have that qualification. And I would think that anybody who's in the helm, being the mayor or the administrator, that they're not gonna hire somebody that doesn't meet that standard. And if they do, they're doing an injustice to the city. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we can't dictate every single aspect of operation within this city. If you think you're gonna create a law for everything that you do, you'll have a book about this thick and you'll never find it.
You can't do it on
You
a
can't do
charter.
it. So I mean, you need to have either the trust in the individual that you're hiring into the position. If you don't, then don't elect that individual. And I understand, unfortunately, sometimes individuals get elected into office that you find later that maybe is not the right person for the job.
Just for clarity, on 839, you're looking just for more a more elaborate description instead of registered professional engineer, 839?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
all, okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay, and if, and again, David, if you have some thoughts on what you would wanna put in there, if you could share it with us. All right, we've already, the removal is the same issue we've had all along. So next would be Article 14A, the building commissioner.
So, 25.
I know, but I'm hoping to.
Oh,
I'm pushing hard here, we should get this thing done, but we're not gonna, if we can do the building commissioner, does everybody have any thoughts?
Yes, again, the building commissioner should enforce the laws that are on the books, which hasn't been done. And the reason I'm saying this, 4 years ago, our ordinance specified no signs and nothing shall be in the city right away.
But if you look at the duties, it says he shall enforce the ordinances. So what more can we do as a charter commission? You know, I understand you say you didn't, enforce the ordinances, but that's not what we're here about.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I think what Dave is saying is suggest some language that you propose in the charter that'll address your concern.
Like
We
Turn
could
it
add-
into a
officially or
suggestion.
any-
That's why I was gonna say, that if, section
I'm sorry.
1402B would be, if Mr. Leparo finds that he did not do that, he was shot at no.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's not in here, okay. If council don't uphold what it's supposed to be, that's okay. I'm merely saying if it would be in here, it's enforceable, right?
It should be, it says he'll do it, so what more do we want, what more can we put in there? If you look at 1402A, it says the building commissioner shall administer and enforce all applicable building and zoning laws, ordinances and regulations. It's his job.
Okay, so therefore, if it's not done, it's up to council to enforce this, that he is doing his job, am I correct?
Chuck, you know, this issue that you're raising,
Huh?
so that I can just address, you're fixed on the issue itself of the signs, if you will. Remove that from your mind, because you know that that has been an issue since the beginning, as far back as I can remember. You know, signs being placed outside of the right of way and in the right of way and whatever. I mean, it is occurring all the time. I mean, we got a very short window that occurs. It's a 30-day, and actually, I think that the legislation has been changed in this.
Oh, no, you can keep a sign a year now by law.
Well, yeah, I mean, we used to have it up 30 days, and you would have to take it down. every
No,
30
not
days.
by law, Joe, it's changed.
Okay, but my point is this, is that that's always been a bone of contention, always has been an issue.
I think he's talking about like mattresses for sale and.
Well, that kind of stuff, well, you know what? If
Getting
you
off the
remember
ramps.
back in the day when we had, what's his name, that used to be our zoning inspector, he would on the weekends, he'd be going out and fucking these
Right,
signs.
yeah.
And it's almost like a police job. You gotta be out there, it's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to keep up with them. I see those signs, don't you think I get aggravated when I see them? I see these signs all over posted. These guys can't keep up with that. There's just too many and maybe what you do is you send letters then to the individuals that put the letter, if you could find them, who did it.
Well, no,
Or the
because usually at
companies.
the bottom, their name is, I got the pictures, their name is there.
So maybe they're doing that. Have you checked to see whether they're?
They're not doing that.
Well, I think that at least they should be picking up the sign, or at least looking at the signs and sending out letters.
Well-
But that's a separate issue. I think that Dave hit it on the point, is that what else can you do other than the fact that it says that they're to enforce that law? So.
Shoot.
But I mean,
These people follow the right. All right, if anybody doesn't have, if no one has another serious comment, since my last one was not serious.
I do.
Good, David, give it to us.
I have two comments about this section. My first comment is, I really believe that the head of the building department needs to be a certified building official. I think it was a mistake that we changed the charter, and I think we need to consider changing it back. That's the first thing.
Okay. so
I
we'll
think
put that
from a
on the list.
financial standpoint, just to expand on that a bit, I believe right now we have an uncertified individual running our building department, and because of that, we have to hire outside consultants and pay for outside consultants anytime we need any type of approvals.
well, that would have occurred anyhow though, Dave. I'll only defend to that end because the city, you know, when I was mayor, we had a I had hired a engineer on staff. And we hired a guy who was also a plans examiner on staff. So those two items we don't have anyone that's qualified to do that anymore. So we, since then, have had to farm that back out. Okay? Your CEO of your chief enforcement officer of the building department never possesses those qualities anyhow.
I disagree. This is the only municipality around here where they don't. I would
I'm
challenge
sorry,
you to, you know.
plans examiners are.
I'm not talking about plans exam, I'm talking about the chief building official.
He has to maintain, I think, a C1 or C2 or something like that, that he's required to have to be that, in that position. But we do have a architect on staff, which is, he's the zoning inspector, so he's able to do some of those things that he can't do. We've never had it that way, so I want to make it very clear that always the chief building official may have held credentials where he could be an individual that could go out and do electrical inspections maybe, or something like that. We had Drobnik back in those days. He was kind of qualified in a number of different disciplines for the city. But we always had to hire in the city engineer, plans examiner,
I'm
and
not talking about those positions, Joe.
Yeah,
I'm
but-
talking about the head of our building department.
what do you expect that individual to do?
I expect that individual to have a qualification, the minimum qualification required by the state of Ohio. One, they're required to have the chief building official, CBO, qualifications and certifications, okay? That's the first, and I say that because we are the only city, only municipality around here, and almost all of Summit County, municipal city, not village, not unincorporated, okay? City, municipality, that has changed that and does not require that. And I think that was a mistake because we don't have that, we have to go purchase those specific services. I'm not talking about the plans examiner, yes, we
Well,
purchase
okay.
those also.
I'm not gonna argue the issue with the CBO issue
Okay.
position, but I'm going to argue the position that the individuals that you still will have to have on staff or call upon, if you will, for contracted services, will be a plans examiner.
I
a
agree.
A city
Yeah.
engineer
Yeah,
that will have to examine.
that would be absolutely consistent with what other people do.
And all of the other disciplines, your HVAC, your electrical, and general building, inspections from, I think he's gotta have a C1 or C2 or whatever that is. So yeah, all those things are gonna you're still gonna hire them in.
Right.
So the CBO part of that, being the chief building official and being qualified under that, I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, well, see, the problem
But
I
I
have
don't-
now is we have an individual that is administering the people you're talking about, plans examiners, HVAC engineers, inspectors that are certified and qualified, and they're contracted by our city to perform those services. And yet the individual administering them does not have the same
I'm not quite sure
qualifications.
what our building inspector has as far as qualification.
I don't know
Well, have
either.
you-
I just know he's not a chief building official, and that the language was changed to facilitate him.
I would check to see what he has, I mean, I really don't know, but I think it's a separate issue, whether this guy does or doesn't.
Does Hudson, Twinsburg, do they all have, CBOs,
Yes, they do.
Talmadge and all those types of
Yes.
cities?
I've looked at all of Summit County, every
I'm just
municipality. I've
trying to
looked- I've
educate
looked at
myself.
quite a few of the Cuyahoga County municipalities too. And this, when I came here, this really bothered me, okay? And I'll tell you why. I'm an engineer, okay?
Right.
And I've gone through this process before. And it would seem to me that the head of the building department should have some basic qualifications that guy's credentials, you know, suggest he has experience looking at building construction, okay? And I'm not suggesting our current guy doesn't. I'm saying by the fact that he doesn't have that certification suggests that he doesn't have the experience that people do have the
I will only say
certification.
this, and I'm
Does.
not sure that he does or doesn't, because I can't attest to that. He had always worked for Adachi, Chuni, and Lynn, back in the day. I didn't hire him, so I'm just not defending him either, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying to you that he always worked for them, and he was always a field inspector for them on road construction, so he knows all about road construction, I can tell you that.
Mhm.
Probably knows more in that arena. But what we do have on staff, we do have a certified architect that is our zoning inspector, who can do much of what the chief building official may perhaps can't do. I'm not sure who's holding the CBO. Sometimes,
Well,
you
from
know
what
who
I
it is? Who
understand,
is
in
it?
our city, we currently hire somebody when we need that person's signature.
Who is that?
Jerry Kisser.
Jerry, okay.
Kiyosaki.
Jerry's though a plans examiner, so that, yeah, and that's perhaps why Jerry Parasak is, Parasak, if I say his name correctly, is doing that. But that's occurred for a lot of years though.
I'm
just-
talking about individuals here, what I'm talking about is our organization and this, you know, the basic structure of our city and the qualifications of the people overseeing. That's what
Let
I'm
me give you
talking
another, if I may,
Please.
Dave, and I don't wanna belabor this and beat this up, but I think in the near future, by the way, this is my belief. I was the director of development of this county and headed up the building department for the entire county. And I think eventually, someday in the future, all of the municipalities and villages and townships throughout the city are going to wind up engaging the county to be their inspector for building.
If you're
We are going
if
to
you
be-
don't incorporate it, you currently do that.
You're unincorporated, correct, but I think it's ultimately gonna be there, because when Macedonia gets to like 90%, we're at 90% now, I think. We probably got
Yeah.
10% left. I think that we're
Right.
gonna eventually say, farm it out. That's my belief. That's just the way I see it. And I think that the county would welcome the ability to go ahead and do that for all the municipalities. I know that I've had conversations when I was the director with like Twinsburg and some of the other municipalities throughout the county that thought that, hey, that may be a great idea for us because we're.
So your idea might be to get rid of the entire structure, the building
I'm not
department, building
suggesting that at this
commissioners.
point in time, but I'm suggesting that that's going to ultimately be something that council financially will look at
Yeah,
as a way of reducing its cost of operations.
yeah. I guess, my point, I guess I just wanna make this point one more time. In all these sections, we've defined qualifications. Here, in this one unique section, which affects the safety, health, and welfare of our residents, at some point, we chose to change the charter and reduce the qualification requirements of this person. And I am proposing that we revert back to what those qualifications are. That's all I'm suggesting, because I consider it an important position.
Can you give
That's
us
all.
the language?
Absolutely. The language was here before we changed it. I'm just suggesting we put it to the voters that we go back to that language.
One of the things, if I may, go in a little different direction. This certainly doesn't apply to law, it doesn't apply to engineering, because those are contract positions. But, you know, some of these positions, maybe I think we should require them as, that they are full-time employees. Because some of the directors and department heads are also working for other cities, and I think if I'm paying you $90,000, you wanna be there.
Who's doing that?
Well, Mr. O'Lad is over for sure.
Working for other cities.
Yeah.
How can you do that?
I don't know.
I thought he wasn't allowed to. I thought by our charter,
I mean,
that's
If
forbidden.
he's, if you can't be doing it within the 40-hour structure that we have in the city.
Well,
He does it on the day off or his contract.
That's what, yeah, it's.
by appointment only in the other town.
Right, and you know, it creates a lot of issues, and I think charter, it needs to be a full-time, these jobs need to be full-time.
I thought
And
it
you need to
was.
be working here 8 to
But I think you
whatever.
can do that by way of legislation.
All right, how do you, Joe, would you suggest that person doesn't hold two jobs at the same time?
Again, that I think is an overall personnel issue with the city. I think that, I certainly wouldn't want anybody that I hired for 40 hours a week to be doing any other job but the city's job in that 40 hours a week.
But they say, I'm taking an hour off for vacation. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go do this.
Well, if they're entitled to take the time off,
I
then they're
understand.
entitled to take
I
it off.
understand.
I mean, so if they do that, then they're doing it on their off time. As
Didn't,
long as they don't sacrifice my city.
Wasn't it the, I don't wanna mention his name, Bill, what was his? what
Jimmy
was his-
Kleber?
I didn't say that. What was the department he worked in?
Service department.
Service department.
No, the
He was
reason I said
fired.
this, Joe,
And you know what, that issue came up the day that we hired you.
Right.
And that we said that providing he does not sacrifice, and I hired him, so I'll tell you. I said that as long as he didn't sacrifice anything that he did as the service director of our city, then, and council agreed with me.
And what'd he do, Chuck? What'd he get caught on doing?
What do you do?
I'm not saying.
Okay, well, I
But
understand.
was it not during my time?
No, here's what I'm trying to explain to you, Joe. If our building and zoning inspector, not this one, the one just passed, all right, and he gave all the inspection work to QCI. They did the job beautiful, okay? But at the time he did it and council approved, he was working for QCI at the same time. The FBI, some big mouth called him, they raided the building department twice on him.
Well,
So that's why I say, how do you prevent that?
Let me say, because I know QCI. Are you talking about our building department official hired QCI?
Yes,
You're saying that. Typically, what has happened in the past, and I'll give you back in the day when Fred Tufts was here and.
that's the one I'm talking about.
Fred Tufts, they make a recommendation that QCI would be hired to be the on-site inspector of a job.
Right.
That's typical because the engineering office would either not have the capability or didn't have enough people, staff-wise, to go out there and sit on a job to do that inspection. So, outside firm, the city didn't pay for that, by the way. Always the developer would pay for that cost.
But at the same time, he was a consultant for QCI.
I'm not gonna.
Well, I got the FBI was
No,
replaced.
I'm saying, Chuck, I don't know if that's the case you're saying it is.
I'm telling you, the FBI was replaced.
But that's not the issue. I'm just saying how the process works. Whether they were working, I'm not getting into that. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're past 8:30, I apologize. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Is everybody happy with that? Okay, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Can you send Peggy an email? Do you mind?
That we're adjourned?
Yes. I'm sure she's very concerned. I know,
That
about
we
how far
stopped.
we,
Yes.
yeah.